You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been talking about her motion to vacate, which I think she filed a while back. And a few weeks ago. And it's been bouncing around. It was an unprivileged motion, is my understanding.
She did it when he passed the bill to keep the government open. And that was her. She didn't privilege it, meaning it would have shut the government down, most likely, because that would have had to happen first. But she still did it, like, basically symbolically, and said they would take it up later.
Let's go to Fox and Friends asking Mike Johnson, what are you going to do if this happens?
Mr. Speaker, ultimately, they've got to pass the rule first, and they will, and then everybody gets to vote. But there are a number of members of your own caucus, Republicans, who have said, you know, if you bring up the Ukraine thing, this was a week or so ago, they would vote to vacate you, kick you out of your job. Two questions. One, is that still a worry? And two, if they do vote to vacate and you're kicked out of your job, if you were to resign from Congress, you could theoretically give the Democrats the majority in the House of Representatives.
Look, none of that's going to happen. I don't worry about the vacate motion at all. I'm here to do my job. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what a lot of people were concerned about was us being pressed to pass the Senate supplemental, again, where everything's merged together. This is what conservatives like me and all my friends, Freedom Caucus and otherwise, this is what we desire. This is what we work towards, is to have the regular process of Congress work. And that's exactly what you're going to see this week. So, again, everybody gets to vote their conscience on each of these measures separately. And I think that resolves the concern. So no, I'm not worried about that at all.
So you got $60 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, $9 billion for humanitarian assistance to Gaza, $4.8 billion for Indo-Pacific. Two phases to this question. Number one, do you see this passing or not passing by Friday, or is this going to be the beginning of the process? And number two, have you met a Republican that doesn't look up to Ronald Reagan? And what do you think Ronald Reagan would say about Ukraine aid?
Well, look, I'm a Reagan Republican. I'm a child of the 80s, and we were all raised, as you know, Brian, all of us, we understood the concept of peace through strength, that America is an exceptional nation. We have an exceptional role in the world, and the only reason that the world order has been maintained since World War II is because we're perceived as the superpower that can defend freedom. It doesn't mean we need to be the world's policeman at all, but it means we have an important role, and the perception of a strong America is good for stability around the globe. So that's what we're going to project here. I think we'll do our duty, our responsibility. With regard to the numbers, some of that's still being decided. The bill text will come out later today. But one of the important things to note here is that in the amendment process to all this, our members can bring amendments to, for example, add pay-fors for a lot of this funding.
I don't even want to, like, I just want to also say, Mike Johnson was never old enough to cast a vote for Ronald Reagan. Not even close.
But Ronald
not
Reagan
even close.
would support Ukraine aid because Ronald Reagan was incredibly hawkish towards the Soviet Union, and he also he oversaw the funding of the Mujahideen in order to fight against the Soviet power. I mean, Ronald Reagan stood up to Israel more than Biden did, so I'm not sure that's the road.
He withdrew from Lebanon.
I'm not sure that's the road they want to go down.
Is that the strength thing? Actually,
it's also, you know, the cohort of the Republican Party that cares about Ronald Reagan now. I mean, it was 10 or 15 years ago they were trying to put his picture on Mount Rushmore or on the dime. And I think that anybody brought that up today would be laughed out of the room.
More like Ronald McDonald.
But Speaker Johnson's not taking it terribly seriously. The idea that maybe there's going to be a move to oust him, but it seems like actually that there are other people who are a little more interested in Johnson not maintaining his job.
That was like at what, 7:30? I checked 7:30 Eastern that morning, and so and then 3 hours later, Thomas Massie announces he's going to join Marjorie Taylor Greene's motion.
There's only one person right now who can stop us from going into what happened last fall, and that's Mike Johnson. He's cleaning the barn. That's obvious.
So you want him to resign? You want him to resign?
Yes. Yeah, I asked him to resign.
What did he say?
He said he would not. And then I said, well, you're the one who's going to put us into this. Because the motion is going to get called, okay? Does anybody doubt that? The motion will get called, and then he's going to lose more votes than Kevin McCarthy. And I have told him this in private, like weeks ago.
It may be the case that he's going to lose more votes. I suspect that the Democrats are going to, and by the Democrats, I don't mean all the Democrats, but I think that there's going to be a significant number of Democrats, or at least enough to make up for the Republicans who vote against Johnson. So let's say it is more than voted against McCarthy. You're only talking about 10 or 15 people at that point. And I would be surprised if there weren't 10 or 15 Democrats who would either support Johnson's bid to maintain his speakership in exchange for an opportunity to vote for Ukraine aid, or for that matter, Israel aid. The one thing that seems like that it's very likely is that the aid to Gaza gets voted down. I mean, I don't have a sense of, but I would imagine you've got at least 75% of the Democrats who are going to vote for that aid. I don't know if you have 25% of the Republicans. Maybe, but we shall see.
Yeah, Gottheimer and co. might be thrilled to vote down Gaza.
Without a doubt.
And I mean, I don't know what it does separating Israel and Ukraine aid. I think it's a better thing than having them bundled together, because you saw how Democrats like Elizabeth Warren or even Chris Van Hollen 2 months ago voted that supplemental through when they were attached, because they see Ukraine as such a priority. If it's
I don't know in the Senate if it's going to be separate.
They would have to but they'd have to send it back, right? Because they
could send it back as one bill.
That's in the House rules.
That's what they're talking about, is somehow at the end of like the separate votes, sending it as one aid package to the Senate. Now,
then
I guess
what's
theoretically,
the point? Then what's the point of separating them? I guess to get it over the finish line.
To get it through the House.
Right. Well,
the Senate's already passed it. Senate's already passed one, and they're just taking up their own because they don't think that they can pass what the Senate's passed. So
seems to violate the spirit of the bill, of the vote, if you're going to just bundle them in post. But I guess it's also
that's the whole
Republican.
Point.
I know.
That's the whole point, so that they can take their vote and not have to. They can have their cake and they can eat it too. That's the sort of, I think, the technical term.
Depressing.